Brain versus Right Brain Myth by Callie Mikolajczyk. I'm going to tell you about the myth. Where does the myth come from? What is the truth about my myth? How does this all work? And what does this have to do with neuroscience and teachers? My myth is that you have a brain dominance. According to Christopher Berglund, some of us are left-brained and some of us are right-brained. This helps explain the difference in how we learn. That the left hemisphere is the intellectual, the wordsmith, versus the right side is the artist, the visual spatial expert. Personally, I thought of the left brain is math-oriented and science-oriented with logic as a focus, versus the right side of the brain is where creativity, imagination, and more of the arts is located. The origins of the myth. Neurologists Broca and Wernicke in the 1800s were studying patients that had injuries to specific lobes of the brain. They found out based on their research that the left brain does control our language. That's where language is focused in our bodies. But author Robert Stevenson in the late 1800s saw their research and developed this story, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that this person had these dual personalities that were constantly competing with each other, stating that the left brain is where logic is based and the right brain is where emotions. The truth? Well, in the 1960s, 3 doctors were doing research on this brain dominance theory. They wanted to understand what it was and how did it work. They were at Caltech, and the doctors are Roger Sperry, Michael Gazzaniga, and Joseph Bogan. They were studying patients with epilepsy, which is a disorder that gives you seizures. They were locating that the seizures were on one hemisphere of the brain. So the thought was to split the connection between the hemispheres so that the seizures would not trigger their motor skills and cause them into an epileptic seizure. They called the surgery split brain surgery. The research that they did found out that even after they split the brain, the hemispheres, that the brain has all of these programs running dually at the same time, that they're running across both hemispheres of the brain. They call this a co-piloting, that it's not one side of the brain is more dominant than the other. They work together in tandem, and they're constantly doing many different tasks. How did they come about this? Well, when they did the surgery, afterwards, they would show patients 2 images. They would show the left side of the brain, a chicken foot, and then ask them to pick related images based on what they saw. They were able to determine a foot was related to a chicken foot, which the left brain does have language location in it, so that makes sense. But the confusing part that really supported this co-piloting theory was when they showed a shovel to the right side of the brain, because the right side of the brain doesn't have language location. It sent the image to the left side to make up a story for why they chose snow. It fills in the gaps for the disconnect between the 2 sides of the brain, proving that co-piloting is the theory that works for our brains. Neuroscience is a newer field. Personally, I think this is an area that I need to do more research in. Hook and Farah said that educators are eager for innovative methods to improve student learning, but they may lack the scientific training needed to critically assess the methods of neuroeducation. Without neuroeducation making a connection to the classroom, teachers will keep perpetuating myths to students. Understanding how children learn will boost success of the students and change the way lessons are designed. For me, this was really important because I have been perpetuating this myth for the last 5 years. This is my reference sheet, which I will attach. For me, I have been teaching this lesson. I teach 7th grade science, and we do a unit on neuroscience. Students were to pick what parts of the brain they aligned more with. Were they left brain dominant or right brain dominant? We do this as a lab and collect class data. The second part, and the reason I found this is because our textbook from McGraw-Hill gave us the idea to change this into a lab. So textbook companies are giving teachers research or evidence that they should be doing this, which is concerning because there's no scientific fact behind the brain dominance. It was from a story back in the 1800s of Jekyll and Hyde. I am very disappointed that I'm just finding out this myth now and would like to change it for a future classroom. And thank goodness I haven't taught it this year. I thank you for my presentation, for listening,